So, after playing this campaign for 1.5 years, your new player character with a huge backstory happens to have zero connection or motivation to do anything connected with the story so far. Would actually rather do their own thing, but can't because of amnesia. But instead of amnesia driving them to join the party, you want to play them like they forgot the basic concepts of existence, like what bread is, making it a complete slog with nobody knowing how to interact or what to do with your new player character? No, not happening. We can sit and figure something out, but that player character is not joining the game in this state. Or that's how I wish I responded. Instead, I sheepishly trusted a player who had shown in the past that they couldn't be trusted with things like this, simply because they said, "I know what I'm doing." This interaction taught me to say no when things didn't work for me, and has improved my games a ton, simply by addressing issues like an adult, not talking around it, and having those uncomfortable talks when needed. So yeah, the player who didn't actually know what they were doing, thanks for teaching me a valuable lesson. You know, I always thought amnesia would be a cool way for the DM and the player to build a story together, maybe even over time. It even gives you flexibility to change your mind if you want to. Or you could just use your amnesia to be extremely annoying. That too. This is less a story from gaming, but something I found while looking through ads for games. I shall just quote some of the things that they use to highlight themselves, to get you to join their paid game. Yes, this person wants you to pay them to run a game, and this is how they are selling themselves. How they describe their real-world experience for running Shadowrun. Shadowrun is a world of occult and criminals, and boasts a unique tactical combat system. I am an American-born citizen that has spent over 5 years in Mexico. I've rubbed elbows with all kinds of criminals in the USA and Mexico, spent time training with various militias around the United States, prevented a cartel from kidnapping my 9-year-old daughter, and although I'm a Messianic Jew today, I am quite familiar with the occult. My life experience guarantees a more authentic experience for players interested in running the shadows of the criminal underworld. They go on to further describe themselves in an attached PDF, which, yes, includes an entire section on their personality type and their star sign. They're Leo, if you're curious. And note, I did purposefully redact their name. But the rest of it, with them talking about themselves in the third person, yeah, 100% copy and pasted from their PDF. With military, militia, and real-world criminal experience, this GM is well-equipped to create complex and challenging scenarios for their players. They have a deep understanding of the dynamics of power and conflict, which can be reflected in the game world they create. Their knowledge of occult subjects may also come into play, adding an extra layer of mystery and intrigue to the game. Finally, this GM has a no-nonsense attitude and will not tolerate players who attempt to push their own agendas or views on others. They are strongly opposed to feminists, liberals, and what they perceive as weak, sissied snowflakes, and will not allow discussion on what they believe detract from the game's focus. Players can expect a game master who is highly skilled, organized, and passionate about creating an engaging and immersive game world, but who is also unafraid to enforce the rules and keep the game focused on the gameplay. Some of their table rules. Number 5. It's a man cave. Women are absolutely welcome at the table, but be aware that the environment is decidedly masculine and hostile to the slightest expressions of feminism or males acting like snowflakes. In fact, easily triggered, weak women probably shouldn't bother to show up at the table at all. Oh, number 7, vulgarity. The narrator may narrate scenes that are exceptionally vulgar whenever appropriate. As a heterosexual male, however, I have no interest in hearing about a fellow male's climactic experiences. Example, vulgarity, when I first saw the trailer for the latest installment of Star Wars, wait. Was he? Oh, come. I get it now. Okay, that aLphA is so that my character totally has a vulgarity, and he's a vulgarity. 8. Erotic content. Narration may include R-rated sexual content that is not intended to arouse players. Example, you can hear the girl
erotic content
in the stall next to you and see that there are 2 people in that stall. Do you want to kick the door in, hose them down with your machine gun, or do something else? They even have a section about house rules. Number 1, the GM will resolve any situation without a dice roll if he sees fit. For example, instead of rolling to figure out exactly how many members the vehicle advanced, the GM found it appropriate to simply narrate that the enemy had finally caught up with us, and then he simply declared that the orc in the bed of the pickup truck fired an RPG at our armored van, and we were facing a 2-2D attack from an anti-personnel rocket, and he did that without rolling any dice. 2. The GM may completely invent new rules and dice rolls on the fly, and even use dice that are not normally used in the game, such as a D100 in Shadowrun, where the game only calls for using 6-sided dice. All in all, I hope you folks got as much of a laugh out of this as I did, and yes, I have the links to all of it. I just wish I had the creative chops to just make something like this up. I'm not going to post them publicly, but I'm also not going to say it's hard to find on Roll20. Alright, at the top here, the OP also told me to say this when I asked them permission to share the story. Do not, I repeat, do not look for the Roll20 posting. Seriously, guys, harassment is lame. You heard it here first. Do not go looking for this guy. Leave him alone. With that being said, let's look at this post. So, at the very least, I'm gonna be honest, I am happy that this person is upfront about their game and trying to find people that will fit into their little universe. Now, I have no idea how successful they're gonna be, and there's a small, sick part of me that hopes they're not gonna be successful, because I think the less amount of people who act like this in our world, I think the better off our world is going to be. The general broiness of this post, the use of women as just general erotic objects throughout the descriptions, also the blatant railroading, the insane alpha male stuff throughout the post kind of catches your attention, but at the end of the post, the guy essentially says, yeah, stuff is just gonna happen to you, and you can't do anything about it. I'm not even gonna roll dice for it. Like, seriously, the guy can't even fudge. He's just straight up saying, I'm not even gonna bother to roll. Stuff's just gonna happen to you, and I don't care. On top of that, making up new rules on the fly, yeah, that sounds like a recipe for disaster, especially since I have a sneaking suspicion this guy is not an expert in game design, or an expert on combat, or an expert on social cues, or an expert, I mean, really, on anything, let's be real. I've been playing in a D&D group for my college class. The class is only 24 people, and 6 of us are in the game. I hadn't played in a few years. I was supposed to play in college, but ran into some time overlaps, and it just didn't happen. I created a Discord and started to organize everything. I made a spreadsheet to try and find the best time for us to all get together. We didn't have a DM, but one of us volunteered. In fact, it's the problem player of another story I told, linked in the cards by the way. I have since taken over as the DM by vote. To start, this guy was someone who gave me a lot of bad vibes from the start. I shoved those vibes down because I barely knew him at the time. Sitting down at our first game, we had a small group. I was playing a paladin loyal to the god Shakara the Silent. This will be relevant later. The god himself refused to talk to us mere mortals, and my church had the belief that we were just not worthy. Shakara had fought a great demon 1,000 years ago, and had not been heard from since. Now in truth, Shakara had actually lost that battle, and been locked in chains for millennium, but the church had yet to discover that. I had to make sure my character was a fresh take from what I was used to, so my character became the best boy out there. His goal in life was to help everyone. He was a missionary, carrying 100 pamphlets to hand out. Someone building a house on their travel? Hey, it's a few hours for us, but it makes this guy's whole day. In a fight, we can talk him out of it, trust me. He was meant to be naive as hell, and maybe even a challenge for the party. I made him tanky so he could still be helpful, but like couldn't kill anyone. Now let's say I did kill someone by accident, he would go into a deep depression, not be able to function. The hope was that eventually in the game, I would use this as some sort of character development. That's foreshadowing. The DM decided to start the campaign before the party met. I found that really interesting. Okay, so our group's a rogue, the only veteran at the table, who was in a prison convoy for a crime they didn't commit. Interesting. I'm sure we'll meet in an interesting way. Perhaps I have to break them out of their wrongful imprisonment. And I got teleported in front of the convoy. I don't mean the DM just had me wander in front of the convoy. I mean, I found a teleportation door, and I just happened to show up there. Now, my missionary is then promptly accused of a crime. Sure, sounds good. What is it? I was accused of murdering the king? Later in the same session, we would meet the king. The math is not checking out on this one. My character pulls out his pamphlets to try and prove that I had just started my mission, and it wouldn't be possible for me to kill the king. Nope, I was arrested and taken to jail. This was frustrating, but sure, plot train, choo-choo forward. From here, we came across the third member of our party who had since quit the game for unrelated reasons. The three of us were soft locked by the DM at this point. Our weapons are gone. Our armor is stripped, and our items are confiscated. There were no cracks in the wall or rusts on the bars. This should have been the moment I realized the DM had no idea what they were doing, but that comes later. I try sparking a conversation with the guard. I hand him my last pamphlet, which he then tears up and hands back. The DM then describes that something has been written on the interior. What could it contain? All that was written was... escape. What now? I mean, we've been asking questions to get out for 4 minutes, and he can't understand we have nothing that we could use to, you know, escape. So we ask, hey, how are we supposed to do that? With this. He hands us a club. Yeah, thanks for holding out on us. I was IRL kind of annoyed, but whatever, let's break out now. I strike the wall with all my force, and I killed a child soldier on the other side. I got nothing. I got nothing. Yeah, no damage dice, no roll to hit. I just, like, blew up his head. Now, my paladin starts to freak the hell out, collecting the bits and pieces to try and, like, save the kid. When he obviously can't save the kid, he starts to carry around the corpse to at least give him a proper burial. The DM at this time is laughing at my character's misfortune, which no one else is joining in. Now, that character would later be fed to the crocodiles by a fellow party member, but that's beside the point. Before we can open the door, the king, that I apparently murdered, bursts through the door with 20 of his best men and tells us that we are going to kill the dragon terrorizing the land. Alright, sure, plot train, hop on, let's kill the dragon. He introduces us to our home base for the game with a flying sled that's just like old St. Nick's. Now this is where the first session ended. At the time, I viewed it as a rough start, but overall alright. Right, the second session is the real turn of the tide. We have our mission. We hop onto our flying sled, and we're flying as we enter into my new favorite dimension, the mirror dimension. Yeah, we just slide right in. No saving throws, nothing. Now, it's also around this time now that we're in the mirror dimension that we find an under compartment. Now, our rogue decides to slip down to see what's below. Skulls and body parts. But there was a magic scroll. The rogue reads it and sees a vision of the future where my head is separate from my body and the third player is sitting on a throne. Always great to hear that my character is going to die. Then the rogue returns through the other player's eye? We were stunned. This didn't make sense to us. I'm pretty sure even the DM didn't understand. Soon after, though, our sled is going to crash. No roll. Again, it's just going to happen. At this point, I'm so disconnected. I just say, wait until the last second and jump. And I am the only one who pulls it off. I jump out of the sled, and the rest end up crashing into a castle. This is where things just stop making sense. Now, what can I do? Mr. The law is the law for a reason. I knock on the castle. Inside the castle is God. Just straight up God. God is chilling inside of the mirror dimension. And God tells me to leave. I get a little upset because this clearly isn't my God. So, yeah, I tell him off a little. Hey, my friends are in there. I need them. So what does God do? He strips my paladin powers. For those who don't understand, this is the literal worst thing that can happen to a paladin. And this is the second session. My paladin doesn't stop. I start demanding my friends. God then rolls to tell me they don't think I'm their friend, and he succeeded. No, you're lying. Oh God, no. My character apparently cried for 8 hours. Sure, why not? But the DM is laughing again, and no one else is joining. Eventually, I break out the other players, and my character, with their life ruined, decides to start a church here in the mirror dimension. Now, this session wasn't just bad. It was terrible. The only way we got through it was by making fun of the DM's terrible story. I made that joke that the mirror dimension was reversed in every regard. Evil became good, left was right, and cats and dogs got along, etc. Now, the DM, every time someone would make that joke, would be like, no, that's not how the mirror dimension works. If you're a good god, then the god on the other side of the mirror dimension must be evil. You need to fight him. That's not how the mirror dimension works. Gravity must be reversed here in the mirror dimension. That's not how the mirror dimension works. All I can say is everything is the way it is inside of the mirror dimension. Now, I will say, normally, I'd feel bad for a DM who's getting their world building made fun of. I mean, we all struggle to make cohesive worlds, especially homebrew ones. I have been struggling with that a lot recently, since I'm starting a new campaign soon. However, then I immediately remember, oh right, this is the same DM who did the whole random child behind an exploding wall thing, and I feel significantly less bad. Of course, while that is true, I think the most productive solution here is to bail from this game. I mean, the second the DM pulls that stunt, all hope. I think the confusing world building is bad enough, but put some really stupid character targeting on top of that, and this is just a game that you don't want to stick around in. Apparently, there are some weird social dynamics in the class the OP is part of, and I get it. That sort of thing can be really complicated and annoying to sift through. However, I will argue that staying in a game like this is equally, if not more, annoying. A wizard should be old. That was the first complaint I had about my character, I guess. I never thought that would be a warning sign. I had started a new campaign with an online group for Dungeons & Dragons. I had made an evocation wizard because fireball! But I was new. I talked to the group, and one of the people, let's call him Ranger, guided me through making my first wizard, which I dumbly named Wizlord. Memes and whatnot. While I finished my character, I forgot to set the age and made him the same age as me, 25 at the time. The group got to an enchantment shop and found my character running the counter. You see a young man, human by the looks of him. He wears brown robes that are charred. The DM commented, "A wizard should be old." I asked why age would matter. Cue the lore dump on how wizards spend their entire life studying magic to learn the incantations, cast spells, blah 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 blah. I say, okay, I'm still learning magic, so why can't I be a young wizard student prodigy that learned to cast early? After a few minutes of the players helping me iron out the details on why my wizard is so young, the DM hand waves the scene and says we join up with a task to gather magic crystals. We wander to some caves, and along the way, the other characters talk and ask each other why they are adventuring. Fighter was looking for glory. Ranger was hunting a great beast. Druid wants to start her own circle and protect the feral jungles of old. Still don't know what they were, but that sounded interesting. I said I was trying to learn as many spells as I could to impress my parents. I think I remember the DM saying, cool, in a dismissive tone. I do remember the fighter talking to the GM in a private voice call. I don't know what was said, but when I asked, the fighter told me, don't worry about it. The first problem I had was during a cave crawl. No one had dark vision, so I described myself casting light as the fighter had urged me to try role-playing a little bit. I described as I opened my book, flipped through some pages, tapped my book with my wand, and the tip of my wand lit up. The DM asked me to roll a dex save. At least, I think so, if memory serves correctly. I failed because I had -2, and I apparently swiped the wand so hard that my wand was broken? I got a bit sad, but after a bit the DM said the wand wasn't snapped, it just cracked and the spell went off. I have a feeling the other players said something. I think I heard typing. After we went through the cave, we located an underground lake. There was supposed to be an entrance to the treasure on the other side of the lake, but we didn't have a boat. Druid ended up turning into a crocodile and helping us swim across the lake to the entrance. It wasn't until we ran into my first rock trap that I found out what happened. As we were walking down a tunnel, the DM said that we all saw rocks fall from the ceiling. I asked how many there were. There were 4, so I said I cast Magic Missile 4 times to destroy the rocks. The DM tells me I can't. As you go to cast your spell, you realize your spell book was ruined by the lake water, and you can't cast any spells from it. Panicking, I asked what to do, and Ranger told me to cast Acid Arrow because you can always have cantrips. With my book destroyed, I walked through the dark tunnel with the party, casting Acid Arrow, Frostbite, and Firebolt, and using light to see in the dark. After we retrieved the treasure, we went and the party decided to buy my character a new spellbook. We went to the magic shop and things took a turn. We shopped for potions, and when we asked for a spellbook, the shop owner said, "You A wizard? Maybe pretending, but no. These are for those who have spent their lives studying magic, not a young boy playing pretend. Go find a sword. It was then the voice chat became so loud I had to turn my headphones off. I couldn't make much out, but I heard something about how I was new and the DM should let me play my character. I lowered the volume on my headphones so I could hear everyone without overstimulating myself, and with them still yelling, I texted in the chat, I don't want everyone fighting, so I'll just have my character leave the group because he was discouraged, so he returned to the shop. I asked the GM to help me make a new character, and I ended up with a champion fighter, which I played for 3 more sessions before the campaign got cancelled. Is it really wrong to play a wizard that is young? Could I have done something better? I haven't played a wizard since this, so I still don't know if I actually did anything wrong. Sorry if this doesn't matter, I just want to play wizard again, and I've only played from 3rd to 4th level, and I don't want to do it wrong. TLDR, I tried to play a wizard, but I guess I played it wrong, so I asked the GM to make a new character. Dude, you did not do anything wrong. At all. Look, I get it. Sometimes there are parts of your world building that you're not going to budge on. I understand that as somebody who loves my homebrew world of Eris. However, sometimes DMs just pick the weirdest and dumbest holes to die on. I'm sorry, but sometimes aspects of your world building can be set aside for the fun of the players. Is it really 100% necessary for the campaign for wizards, all wizards in this world, to be old 100% of the time? The answer to this question is most likely no. This is even worse because this player is new. This player probably doesn't understand the restrictions of your world building because they haven't played before. The real highlight of the story is the other player. Seriously, compliments to those people. It's always good, especially when you're new to something, to have other people who have your back. Obviously, as a party, you've got each other's backs in the game, but in real life, it's also important to stand up for each other when you see problem behavior. Seeing the other player stand up for this guy, that was awesome. For context, this game happened on a Discord server, mainly for DMing as a service. However, you can join free trial games run by people looking to become paid DMs for free. That was what was happening with this game, and one of the staff DMs was sitting in to observe the auditioning DM. This will be relevant for later. Anyway, this game was pitched as having room for 6 players, but only 3 showed up. I'll call the other 2 players Fighter and Cleric. So we start off, and the DM is a bit dry describing things, but it's not awful. We go to a castle and get a mission to find a noble woman who is missing and likely kidnapped. During this, the DM has to stop frequently to figure out where he is in his notes and is often dully reading stuff off a page. It was like having the most boring English teacher in the world DM for you. There is some roleplay here that was fun, mostly because Fighter and Cleric were leaning into their characters well. DM made an effort, but the characters we did talk to weren't very interesting, and there was yet more losing of pace and just reciting of text boxes on DM's part. We roll super well on an investigation, and the DM tells us that we've got a point of renown, but never explains what that is. I just want to get on with the adventure, so I don't push to know what renown means, and spoiler, it never means anything. Jumping ahead, we get into a confrontation with a group we initially think are bandits, but are in fact a rival party also looking to collect a reward for finding this noblewoman. During the battle, the DM couldn't figure out how to work Roll20, and we, the players, and the observing DM have to step in and help. This took a painfully long time. In any case, a fight breaks out, and Cleric rolls crazy good on a spell and vaporizes the rival's leader. His goons flee, and we feel pretty good about ourselves. The good times were not to last. About this time, the staff DM left, and this is also really important. We eventually catch up to the kidnappers in a mine, and another fight breaks out. Then, the remaining rivals show up and also want to kill us. While this could be interesting under some circumstances, here it created a problem. Our 3 level 2 characters are now outnumbered more than 3 to 1. I asked the DM if the number of enemies for this fight had been adjusted for the number of players who actually showed up, to which he only said, well, passably. It soon became clear that actually meant no, as our characters were getting overwhelmed, which brings us to the core of this horror story. My female archer got knocked out by a random thug who starts dragging her away. The DM says someone should help her before something bad happens. My mind instantly thought he was implying bad stuff. When I shared the story with my Sunday group, I saw their eyes get wide at those words, so I know this wasn't just me jumping to the worst possible interpretation. Anyway, while that is going on, the fight continues, and Cleric and Fighter are doing well, but eventually Cleric goes down. At that point, Fighter snaps at the DM that this fight is clearly designed for a bigger group, and there's no way 3 level 2 characters could win against this many enemies. DM says that he's running the module as written. Since we're voicing complaints, I say that I agree with Fighter, and then bring up the whole assault thing. I'm pretty sure my exact words were, I didn't appreciate the implication that my character might get... That's messed up, man. To which the DM replied, and I quote, whatever, he stops dragging her and bashes her head in with his club instead. At this point, I'm done with this guy, and damn near quit the game right then and there. But I had already decided I was going to complain about this DM to the server staff, so I might as well stay to the end. Anyway, an attack on my character with 0 hit points counts as 2 failed death saves, so I marked that in my sheet. She failed her next death saving throw, so it was RIP for my archer. Anyway, Fighter and Cleric continue to voice their complaints, to which the DM would snap, whatever, and continue to insist he was running the module as written, and thus, he couldn't do anything about the number of enemies or their actions, which is utter bull. But this guy was a garbage DM, so the lack of flexibility is not surprising. Once the game wrapped, I reiterated in the game chat that I did not care for what was happening at all. Here's the DM's response. I never said that. At most, I was suggesting he was going to take you back and sell you off to some... Still, pretty bad, I know, but these were never good people. Plus, I was just trying to give a reason for you not to get your head smashed in. So really, you should be thanking me for selling your character into slavery. I mean, obviously, such a good idea. And while this wouldn't have happened if it weren't such an unbalanced fight, it wouldn't have been so bad if you talked to the Houndmaster loyalist in the beginning. I didn't write this, and you have to understand there are consequences. At least he admitted the fight was unbalanced. But I didn't sign up for a game with sex or slavery, and selling women into slavery is just felt in a nice little roundabout way. On the upside, the owner of the business saw my message and reached out to me. He was clear that that kind of content was not allowed in games on his server, and that they wouldn't be doing anything more with that DM. I've actually talked to this guy before, and he's cool, so I believe him. The next day, the observing DM also contacted me and apologized for the situation. He also said that the company wasn't going to be involved with Jerk DM further, and invited me to the game he runs. He doesn't fit my schedule, but that was thoughtful of him. He also said he thought Jerk DM had my character get her head smashed as payback for criticizing him, so it'd be officially ruled that she survived if I want to use her in future games. That made me feel a little better, as I based her on one of my favorite Fire Emblem characters, and was pretty fond of her as such. Anyway, that's the story, and I suppose it ended well, at least as well as it could under the circumstances. Thanks for reading. Yeah, this DM has a few problems, not least of which is just their inability to understand how to read the room. If that kind of content is in your game, you need to tell your players about it. It is mandatory that you tell them about it before the game starts. This DM clearly did not do that. They slipped the tongue, which is fine. Sometimes you misspeak, but in those cases, you apologize. You don't bash the character's head in and throw a temper tantrum and then blame the player for being reasonably uncomfortable. I mean, that's enough to just get this DM kicked out of any reasonable server. By the way, good to see the server admins actually doing something. So often, we see complacent server admins not handling problems in their D&D Discord servers. But here, we have an admin that nipped the problem in the bud and even offered a further solution by inviting the player into their game. That is awesome. Shame that scheduling has to strike it down. But still, at least it's good to see people trying to solve these problems and getting problems out of their games. Awesome stuff. Well, in any case, that's going to be it for today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tip series. It's taking a long rest right now. However, there's already 74 episodes made, so you can catch up while that's happening. That D&D advice is linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down into the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment worst LFG to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.